Hi folks, welcome back. I'm Rick Kasuji, and we're here to talk about planting a tree for North Dayton Garden Center. What we have here today is a very lovely weeping cherry tree. And we're going to take this tree and plant it in the ground and show you some of the pertinent information that you need to know about proper planting depth, about the size of the hole, and about the soils that you want to add into the ground to help this tree grow its best. Now, you know there are all types of trees out there, from shade trees to ornamental trees that are larger in size to smaller ornamental trees such as what we have here, a weeping snow fountain cherry. It's going to be a lovely tree growing to only about 8 foot by 8 foot. You can also keep it trimmed down smaller if you wish. Here in this particular location, we're going to allow it to grow to its full grandeur and just be a very nice natural growing tree, or at least that's what's planned for the tree at the moment. Okay, and to help us plant this tree today, I have some friends of mine, Chad Petrush and David Cooper. They're going to help us out on planting this tree, and please understand that we are not going out commercially and planting trees anymore. We're just trying to show you how to plant a tree so that you've got a better idea what to do, and we make sure your tree lives when you do plant it. So one of the first things we're going to do is go ahead and get our hole width correct. And usually we want to cut out the sod to at least twice the size of the earth ball that's on the plant. So here we go. Digging your hole. You want to try to keep your soil in an apparatus of a wheelbarrow, on a sheet of plastic, in your buckets of like what we are doing here. We're used to using large tree tubs to be able to maneuver it around, and that tries to keep your grass area very clean. Now it is something that we're pretty lucky here. We have some pretty good soil that we are working with. So far we have over a 12-inch base of good topsoil. So we will have to place into the hole just minimum amounts of our extra organic matter to help this tree grow its best. Remember, we want a hole about twice as wide as the earth ball itself, and then we also want a hole that's about 50% deeper than what the earth ball is itself. It's most important not to set the tree too deep into the hole. That's a very important factor. So you want to make sure the correct depth is done and the correct placement of that tree where the top of the earth ball is level to the top of the ground, or to the top of a mound if it was a very poor soil situation, and that's what's going to give us that proper size and area. Okay, once we've got our hole at a correct size and we have the proper depth, we have some pre-loosened topsoil already down into the bottom area there, so we have a very good start. We're going to add now our organic matter. There are all types of organic matter: cow manure, peat moss, horse manure when it's well rotted, compost that you make yourself from your own rotted leaves, your own rotted grass clippings. You have to think ahead though and get this stuff going earlier, because you need to make your compost last year for this year so it has decomposed and become the proper organic matter that you can use in the ground. So first thing we're doing is dumping in cow manure. And cow manure in a bag does not stink. It's just good black soil. Now we're going to work in peat moss to the situation. The peat moss helps to hold moisture at a proper time period. It adds that organic matter. It gives vital nutrients for the tree to be, getting its roots started into the ground. So here we're going to have some organic peat. There are many different types of peat. Today we are using organic peat moss in the situation, which again is just another good black soil. All right, we have a few organic matters placed into the hole. Now, you do want to use some of the original soil that came out of the ground. That is very important. But again, hopefully you're choosing your best soil from the top 4, 6, or 8 inches, and that's what's going to give you that better soil rather than the clay soil that was a little bit deeper down into the ground. So we're going to add back in now some of our regular good topsoil, and we're going to break it up. Okay, now we have our hole prepared. There may be a little bit more fine tuning to do, but we think we're pretty close. So you look at your tree and you see what direction that you want to have your branches. You would try to do this before you take the tree out of its container. And it looks like, for my situation, right about there is our best look for this tree. So now what we're going to do is gently hold up the tree and take off the pot. We'll place the tree into the hole. Now, what we first do is use the organic matter mixture that we've just made in the hole and place it up around the earth ball. And then we have some more straight topsoil to go back over the top, and we got a little bit more of a mixture soil to put in too. You want to make sure the tree is straight, and you want to look at it in multiple directions. Okay, from this angle, she looks good and straight. Now again, one of the questions people always have: what height do I leave my tree, or what depth do I place it down to? Again, that really has to do with your type of soil. Here, we're lucky. We are working with wonderful topsoil. So we are going to be able to plant this tree perfectly level to the lay of the land itself, to the grass itself, to the lawn. We do not have to make a mound planting out of this. Those folks that live in Vandalia, Clayton, Englewood, Beaver Creek, you've got 2 inches of soil and then you hit clay. In some cases, you are going to make a mound planting. So you're going to still dig the hole just like we explained, but you are going to backfill the hole with a lot more soil, and you're going to make sure that you maybe raise that tree up about 6 inches out of the ground for the top of the earth ball, but you have to make a nice soil mound to cover that so the roots in the tree ball does not get too dried out in the summertime. Also, if you're raising up that tree a little bit higher because of poor soil, you have to do a little bit more frequent watering because, again, the sunlight and the air will dry that tree ball out. But in this situation, we're lucky. This customer has provided us with wonderful topsoil, and we're able to plant this tree level to the ground. So we will have mulch at the end that will mound it up slightly, but in general, this tree is being planted level and perfect as it should be. The next thing that we've done is we brought more of that organic matter around. And now we're going to place back into the ground a nice combination of some of that original topsoil, and we're going to put a little fresh topsoil around there also, which should help us out to make this tree grow better. The next most important procedure, and that is firming the soil. We've just taken soil out that's been in the ground for who knows how long, many, many years undisturbed. Over those years, it compresses and it really gets to be rock hard. You see in that little hole that was about twice the size, we actually filled up 4 buckets of soil to come out of that one area. But we need to recompress the soil back down into the ground. So we want to go around the outer edge, pushing down on the soil while we're kind of holding the tree in a level location. We're going to create a little water berm to help hold like a water basin around the outer edge of this tree. Incidentally, it's not always good to be too close with bare hands with people with shovels. You must be careful. You can lose a finger if nobody is coordinated and working together. We've all worked together for many years, so we do pretty good at it. A little bit more around the backside here. And a little bit right there. we have the majority of this tree done. There is still very important things that need to be done to the tree. A good, proper watering is very important. Now, we're going to water that tree in just a little bit later. We've got a good rainstorm coming later on. We have no water source turned on yet because we are still just at the end of March here, and we want to make sure that this tree gets thoroughly saturated. So we're going to carry about 3 5-gallon buckets of water to this tree and hand water it. But then the rainstorm tonight's going to soak it in good, and it must be a good rainstorm, and we're expecting a 1/2 inch to 1 inch, so that should really help out on this tree. But the next most important thing is staking the tree up. This tree is liable to tilt one way or another in a windstorm, especially like a big rainstorm coming later tonight. So we want to make sure we stake it up. And what we try to do is, where the most wind comes from, we want to try to be pushing the stake into the ground further. Now, our biggest wind normally right here is to the west, but we do have some nice evergreens here that are going to be blocking that wind. So our next windy location is from the southwest. So what we are going to do is place the tree support into the ground, and we do want to tap it into hard ground, and we are going to place it so that the wind from that southwest is going to try to push this stake in the ground farther, which is its most resistance. Okay, so we have our very nice 1-inch caliper stake here. It's a little bit long for what we need, but it's always better to have it longer than shorter because we have to be able to hammer this into the ground. Remember, you don't want to put it in the soft soil. That will not do any good. So right now, we're at a nice angle to the tree. We want to attach it 3 to 4 feet up onto the trunk, sometimes higher, sometimes lower. And of course, this is for this size tree. If we were doing a larger tree, like a 10 or 12 foot tree, we would probably have to use 3 guy wires to really help hold that in place. But at the moment, we can use this situation and it's going to work out well. So now, we're in our southwest distance. We're at the correct height. All right, let's start tapping her down. Okay, so far, it looks like we've got a good tapping on the first round, which is unusual, because the difference is when we go and bring the tree and the support stake together, we want to make sure we're not making the tree crooked. It's got to stay straight. So again, we check our angles out and we make sure our tree is very straight and we are looking good. Now, the most important thing after that is to have some cushioning between the stake and the tree trunk. We do not want that to braze in the wind. This tree will move ever so slightly. We can allow the tree to move some, but we don't want it moving a whole lot. That ends up breaking young roots and eventually causes them to not anchor in quite as well. So we take something like burlap, some type of cotton rags. Many different things can be used for a cushion, but remember, whatever that you use, it ought to be biodegradable. Okay, now we're placing this cushion in between our support stake. Okay, and with our cotton twine, we first, let's let go of this one, let's go around the tree trunk first to hold our support cushioning. And then after that's tied on, we marry the two together. And usually it's always wise to use more than one layering. I have some short string here, so I will do it twice, and it will give us what we need. Now we are going to do some finishing touches. we are going to place the mulch around the tree. Now, this mulch, you really don't want to go more than 3 inches high up onto the trunk. Usually, actually 3 to 4 inches is maximum that you want to use. We do see landscapers periodically putting mulch 6, 8, 10 inches high onto trees. Their thought may be to keep weeds from growing better, but it does not provide proper oxygen for the tree. That tree can suffer if it is too deep in mulch. Now, a yearly adding of mulch or a bi-yearly adding of mulch, that mulch decomposes. So there's a lot less threat of building up onto that tree over the years. But that proper placement of that mulch is going to give us an insulation effect from both the sunlight from beating down on the ground and wicking our moisture out, or also from cold temperatures, which also the mulch is going to provide that protection for extremely cold temperatures. Incidentally, this is a weeping cherry. A lot of times it can come out very early in the season, and sometimes the blooms get froze back because it does come out so early. Having a proper mulch level down will help to insulate that ground a little bit more as we come out of winter and go into the springtime, and that is going to give you that extra week of dormancy, which should help against some of those late March freezing temperatures or perhaps early April freezing temperatures, which we may end up having yet come on here in the first weeks of April. So again, we've got a wonderful tree planted here. This tree again from North Dayton Garden Center, a snow fountain weeping cherry, very small, compact tree, something that is going to add serenity as you look out of your windows of your home and see this tree placed in your yard. It's going to give you the beauty in the springtime when it's in bloom, and in the summer, it adds wonderful character to a location with its drooping green foliage. So again, I hope you enjoyed our planting video. We're gonna go get some 5-gallon buckets of water now, and we're gonna water this tree in, and then we're gonna watch it grow over the course of time and enjoy this each time that we come out to this person's house, and we'll see this tree and remember that we planted it here today.